Staying with our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic, the European Union has announced a travel ban for visitors from outside the bloc in an unprecedented move to seal its borders amid the coronavirus outbreak. The continent has been hit badly by the virus, which has killed 7,500 people worldwide. It comes after British Prime Minister Boris Johnson put the government on war footing to fight the coronavirus and palliatives for small businesses, and US President Donald Trump announced a plan to send money to Americans immediately to ease the economic shock from the coronavirus crisis.
The Schengen measures are expected to be in place for at least 30 days and allows people to move freely between EU countries without border checks. Citizens of non-Schengen EU member states will also be invited to apply the travel ban, including the UK. Long-term residents, family members of EU nationals and diplomats will be exempt, as well as cross-border and healthcare workers and people transporting goods. Police checks have been set up across France to enforce the new restrictions to movement announced by President Emmanuel Macron in the fight against the coronavirus. Meanwhile, thousands of French workers were stuck in traffic earlier today as Switzerland tightened border controls under new emergency measures to curb the spread of the virus. Only Swiss citizens, residents and people traveling for business can enter Switzerland under the new regime, which also affects Germany, France and Austria. The Swiss already tightened monitoring of cross-border traffic from Italy. Italy will rush 10,000 student doctors into service, scrapping their final exams, and the government will let this year's crop of medicine graduates start work some 8 or 9 months ahead of schedule and waive the mandatory exams they normally sit before qualifying. Over in Russia, upgrades are being made at the main infection lab bracing for COVID-19 outbreak. The head of the Russian Plague Center says they're bringing to laboratories the appropriate biosafety level up to full strength, installing equipment which allows for the run of the full cycle of polymerase chain reaction tests. Following Chancellor Angela Merkel's announcement on new measures, shops will close, restaurants will cut opening hours, and churches and mosques will stand empty. Meanwhile, bars, clubs, theaters, zoos, and even brothels must close. Beyond Europe, Israel has evoked emergency regulations to deploy cyber monitoring in the battle against the coronavirus, saying halting its spread outweighed concerns about the invasion of privacy.
Let's turn our attention to politics. The Supreme Court today reserved judgment on the application by the Zamfara State chapter of the All Progressives Congress seeking a review of its ruling that invalidated the party's participation in the 2019 elections. A 5-man panel of the court, led by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Mr. Tanko Muhammad, announced that a date for ruling will be communicated to the parties in the suit. A faction of the APC in Zamfara State, led by the former governor, Abdulaziz Yari, is challenging the Supreme Court judgments on the grounds of its consequential orders that gave victory to the People's Democratic Party's candidate in the state.
Legal fireworks resumed at the Supreme Court over the application for the review of the judgment that sacked all the candidates of the All Progressives Congress in Zamfara State in the 2019 general elections. Arguing the application for review of the consequential order that barred its clients from the 2019 general elections, Chief Robert Clark, SAN, argued that the order was made out of jurisdiction by the Supreme Court. He, however, admits that the All Progressives Congress, which brought the application challenging the consequential order, was not against the main judgment because the party did not conduct primary elections for nomination of candidates for the 2019 general elections. Mr. Clark therefore urged the court to invoke its inherent jurisdiction to set aside the consequential order that brought PDP's candidates to power in Zamfara State. However, Senator Kabir Marafa, through his lawyer, Chief Mike Ozekome, informed the panel that the APC's application was caught by Section 285 of the 1999 Constitution, which prescribed 60 days for hearing and determination, starting from the date the notice of appeal was filed. He argued that the Apex Court gave final judgment in the Zamfara governorship tussle over 10 months ago, adding that bringing such application for the second time is a gross abuse of the process of the apex court. Chief Ozekome urged the court to dismiss the application with huge punitive fines to keep the party away from further abuse of court process.
Ours is a very unique case. We are not challenging the judgment of the Supreme Court. We believe in that judgment. But what we are saying is that the consequential order that judgment now made was wrongly made out of jurisdiction.
Our simple reply is to refer the Supreme Court to its own earlier decision of 2018 in the case of APC versus Kafi, in which the Supreme Court said consequential orders follow a case naturally.
After listening to submissions from the councils, the Chief Justice announced that ruling has been reserved to a date to be communicated to parties in the matter.
Meanwhile, the APC seems really ready to put its house in order after a stormy battle which threatened an end to his reign as national chairman of the APC. Mr. Adams Oshomole presided over the National Working Committee meeting at the party's secretariat in Abuja today. Mr. Oshomole says conflict is natural in a party of this size, but the APC is united in using the instruments of state for development of Nigerians. The meeting took place after the appeal court vacated the suspension order on Mr. Oshomole as chairman of the party. Uneasy calm has returned to the area of Sunday's explosion, which residents have described as Shoba Town and Abule Ado. With the conversation of infringements on right-of-way building up, the Federal Housing Authority, a part owner of the area, says structures in the area are illegal and should not have been there in the first place. But the Shoba family disagrees with this, insisting that the Lagos State government is aware of the presence of the buildings. It's time for business news. Here's Anne Wawodo.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi, and welcome to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari is assuring Nigerians that the federal government will explore all alternatives to protect citizens from the economic impact of COVID-19. The president spoke today at the State House in Abuja during a meeting with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council led by Professor Doyin Salami. President Buhari says that protecting the people from the peculiarity of international economic misfortune and associated fallen prices of oil is a priority of the government. He has promised that inputs in agriculture, education and healthcare will continue as much as practicable. And staying with the impact of the coronavirus, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has listed fiscal, monetary policy and regulatory response as 3 action areas to help guide countries around the world in the difficult days ahead. According to the IMF, additional fiscal stimulus is necessary to prevent long-lasting economic damage. The fund also says that the central banks should continue to support demand and boost confidence by easing financial conditions and ensuring the flow of credit to the real economy. Financial system supervisors have been advised to maintain the balance between preserving financial stability, maintaining banking system soundness, and sustaining economic activity. Meanwhile, crude oil prices settled around $30 per barrel today as the coronavirus pandemic continues to hit demand. Brent crude was hovering around $29 a barrel earlier today, and that's before gaining 29 cents to trade at $30.26 a barrel. U.S. crude reversed most of its earlier gains, 4.7%, rising 48 cents to trade at $29.18 a barrel. Analysts are saying that more decline may follow, even as Saudi Arabia and Russia battle for market share. Countries, including the United States and Canada, along with nations in Europe and Asia, are already taking unprecedented steps to contain the virus, curbing demand for crude and products like gasoline and jet fuel. Let's head to the Nigerian equities market. It has continued to decline just as major markets around the world. And the all-share index today is down 0.71%. Teniola Shibawali has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Bearish sentiment continues to trail the nation's bourse as the main share index was down 0.71% with an additional loss of 85 billion naira in its equity cap. Despite this downturn, the banking and consumer goods counter recorded gains of 5.59 and 0.85% each. The industrial goods sector was down 2.16%, dragged down by losses recorded by market heavyweight Dangote Cement. The consumer goods as well as the oil and gas counters also posted losses. On the top trades list, the banking sector takes the lead as Zenith, GT Bank and FBN Holdings were the most traded for today. In all, 675.91 million volume of shares worth 8.059 billion naira changed hands in over 7,000 deals. Access Bank, United Capital and WAPCO were the top three gainers for the day with 10% each, while Nascon and Dangote Cement led the day's losers also with 10% each. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Teniola Shibawali.
Meanwhile, global stock markets rebounded today as the White House laid out more plans to cushion economic blow of the coronavirus. But more actions by the Federal Reserve to boost access to funds for businesses also aided the comeback. Let's take a look at the figures for today. And that's business news for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, we have more on the COVID-19 pandemic on our international news and around the world in 5. Stay with us.